What's going on? Thanks for clicking on my video. I appreciate it. Thanks to the new subscribers and the people that have been leaving comments. I really appreciate it. I'm on day 55 of semen retention and things are going pretty decent right now. I wanted to make a video basically kind of giving my suggestions as far as how to avoid a relapse. And the number one thing I would suggest is to limit your caffeine intake. I've noticed personally that when I have a high caffeine intake that I'm more apt to fantasize. The second thing is be very, very careful on the internet because I know in my personal experience I've been apt to watch workout videos, and if you watch enough workout videos, that will lead to more fantasies and stuff like that, which will make relapse more likely to occur. So limit your caffeine and limit or be super aware of what you're viewing on the internet because the more repetition you have, even if females are fully clothed, etc., it will lead to fantasies, and fantasies will lead to relapse. So you basically have to shun the idea of, appreciating the female figure, as disappointing and depressing that might sound to you. It definitely has its advantages because it makes it much, much easier to practice semen retention and practice celibacy. There's very little sexual frustration. The third suggestion I have would be to avoid eating meat, avoid eating dairy, eggs, cheese, etc., any animal products, even fish. And the reason being, I've noticed personally in my life, I used to consume a lot of meat when I first started bodybuilding, pretty much because that's what all the top bodybuilders were doing. So I did the same thing. And what I noticed is it extremely increases your basic desire to have sexual relations. And I've noticed since going vegan that I have very little desire. I still have a high testosterone level because I'm frequently working out, but I'm not filled with lust. And when I was filled with lust, it was kind of a very disappointing reality because it's almost like you're behaving like an animal that's just constantly wanting to breed, and you can't really concentrate or think about any other aspects of life. So I would limit your caffeine. I would be cognizant of what you're viewing on the internet because the internet can be a double-edged sword. You can learn a lot of information, and it's obviously free information, but there's also a downfall where you can go down the rabbit hole and eventually just, view very unhealthy material, which affects the way you view females and can be very detrimental for your life and your livelihood, etc. So some of the things that I've noticed, especially today, is like major depression. And the reason I have this major depression is because obviously I've mentioned this in some of my other videos. I'm in debt right now, mostly student loan debt, and it's just depressing because I look back at my life and I could have, done well in the stock market, but instead I developed a drug addiction, and I would attribute developing this drug addiction to failed relationships where I was very disappointed in the relationship and I was having more sexual relations than I should have. And once you cease the sexual relations, you basically replace that good feeling with drug use. So I feel like this happens to a lot of people, and this is the reason why there's a lot of problems with drug use and alcohol abuse in the world today. So I would highly advise, if you're in a relationship, to kind of limit your sexual activity, just because it can have a detrimental effect to you if you overdo it, like anything really. Moderation is probably the key. I don't really agree with everything in moderation because there's some things that are just very, very bad for your body, and I don't really agree with that. So I'm still having pretty good results with the vitamin C therapy. I've only been on the vitamin C therapy for maybe like 3 weeks now, close to 4 weeks. And it's probably the most important thing that I've been doing just because I've noticed that when you constantly release semen from the body, one of the main components of semen is vitamin C. So I researched vitamin C and I found out vitamin C basically plays a role in everything as far as, making collagen, and your body is built, all over with collagen. I've noticed a pretty big difference in my hair. Just the fact that it's not super dehydrated, not dried out. My skin's still clearing up, but there's still there's still a little bit of acne down by my chin, so that's kind of frustrating, especially when I've been eating vegan for like 3 weeks. But I don't know, I just attribute that to being super stressed out, etc., and depressed. But so I haven't been having a whole lot of urges or fantasies or anything like that, like in the beginning of the semen retention and no fap, etc. But lately, I'm just noticing major depression. And what's interesting about this is the reason I'm depressed is I'm facing my problems. I'm like facing my problems head on, and I'm really doing everything humanly possible to change them. So I'm not really existing in like a delusion and like a alternate reality where you just run from your problems. All of a sudden, you start practicing semen retention, and you're like, man, these things in my life that are negative, I have to change them immediately. So this is something I talked about yesterday in my video, how you really have to be extremely patient because the results do happen, but they happen slowly over time. So you have to have an incredible amount of patience to keep going. And I'd just like to offer my condolences for those guys that have been leaving comments about having relapses. Just try to learn from the relapses and try to prevent them in the future because there is light at the end of the tunnel. I can definitely identify with you guys. It's like a very, very disappointing thing. When I first started practicing semen retention, I was like almost super suicidal. So it can definitely be pretty bad. So I wish the best for you guys. And just to summarize this video, I would say limit your caffeine, which is something I struggle with. Also, definitely be cognizant of watching workout videos and stuff like that because that can lead to fantasies. Limit or most ideally eliminate your meat and animal product intake, and I would also suggest vitamin C therapy and also water fasting. So those are my top suggestions. I've made it 55 days. My goal is to go at least 365 days. I'm going to try to keep you guys updated on a daily basis. Sometimes I lose motivation to make videos because my videos don't get a lot of views, but I did get some new subscribers recently, or a new subscriber recently, so that kind of motivated me to make another video, and some people were asking me to continue to make videos, so I'm going to try to build the channel slowly but surely. So thanks for viewing.